After recovering from his injuries, John Wick travels to Morocco, where he confronts and kills the Elder, the one person sitting above the high table. In response, the high table sends the Marquis Vincent de Gramont, a senior member of the organization, to meet with New York Continental manager Winston, and his concierge Charon. De Gramont tells Winston that the table has given him unlimited resources to find and kill John, reprimanding him for his failure to kill him. As a result, he has the Continental destroyed and relieves his duties as manager, declaring him excommunicado, before personally executing Charon. He later travels to Paris and hires Kane, an old friend of John's and a blind assassin, to eliminate John or his daughter will be harmed. Taking refuge at the Osaka Continental, John meets with his friend Shimazu Koji. De Gramont's assassins, led by his chief henchman Chidi, attack the hotel. Akira, Koji's daughter and the hotel's concierge, orders everyone to evacuate before joining her father and John in fighting off the high-table assassins, during which she is wounded. John later confronts Kane, but are interrupted by a tracker named Mr. Nobody, who spares John due to the contract money being insufficient. Akira also escapes, but Kane kills a defiant Shimazu in a sword fight. John returns to New York and meets with Winston at Charon's grave. Winston tells him that in order to be free from the table, he must challenge de Gramont to a duel. However, he can only request it on behalf of a crime family, since he severed his connection with the Roscaroma. John travels to Berlin to rejoin the syndicate. His adoptive sister, Keisha, will only allow him back once he accomplishes his mission of eliminating Kilia, a German high-table senior who murdered her father. John arrives at Kilia's nightclub, but Kilia, having been informed of the hit on John by Kane, sets up an ambush on John in a rigged poker match. John manages to escape before killing Kilia and several of his henchmen in a fight, presenting Keisha one of his golden teeth as a trophy, regaining his status in the Roscaroma. John then challenges de Gramont to a duel, while Winston demands that if John wins, he must be reinstated as manager and the New York Continental be rebuilt. Meeting in Paris, John and de Gramont discuss the parameters of the duel. De Gramont nominates a reluctant Kane to fight in his place, while the duel is to involve dueling pistols at Sasser-Cour on the following sunrise. The Harbinger, the table's emissary, informs John that should he not arrive at the duel before the deadline, he and Winston will be executed. The Bowery King arrives in Paris to provide John with a new suit and a weapon. Moments before the duel, de Gramont issues a $26 billion bounty on John's head to prevent him from reaching the duel and sends out every assassin in Paris to take him out. John fights his way through the wave of assassins, including Mr. Nobody, who tries to negotiate with de Gramont for the bounty to be $40 million instead, only to start assisting John after he saves his dog from Chidi. Despite the opposition, Mr. Nobody kills Chidi, and with help from Kane, John manages to arrive at his final showdown at Sasser-Cour. In the showdown, John and Kane face off in a series of rounds with pistols. Eventually, Kane manages to severely wound John, and de Gramont moves in to deliver the coup de grace. However, it turns out that John intentionally saved his last bullet and he promptly uses it to shoot de Gramont in the head moments before he could finish off John personally, killing him instantly. As a result of winning the duel, the Harbinger pardons John and reinstates Winston as manager, though John later succumbs to his injuries sustained by Kane in the fight, his last moments remembering his wife Helen. Winston and the Bowery King later bury him alongside Helen. Note: meanwhile, Kane returns to Paris to meet with his daughter, but is approached by a vengeful Akira.
Sandra chimes in to add that she thought she saw Max laughing after Peppermint was banished. He shrugs it off. He was simply having a reaction in the moment, he says, then clumsily segues to the tension between Janelle and Ekin-Su. I don't think either woman is necessarily accusing the other of being a traitor, though. They're just annoyed and annoying. Max's obvious deflection doesn't play well in the room. Pete and Kevin concoct a fun little chaotic good scheme of voting for one another despite being pals in order to suggest non-existent tension between them that might convince the traitors that, too busy squabbling with each other, they'd be good candidates to keep around. It's too early for Parvati to turn on Dan, but she nevertheless does something brilliant. She too votes for Kevin, citing his acting background as a possible advantage for traitordom, but also includes a crossed-out D on her chalkboard that quietly broadcasts she also seriously considered voting for Dan. I love my genius wife. Ultimately, Max gets 10 of the 18 votes. Dan, Ekin-Su, and Kevin each get 2. In the traitors' case, those are from the increasingly and correctly suspicious Larsa and MJ. Janelle and Peter each get 1 vote. At this rate, the round table would have better odds of banishing a traitor if they pulled a name out of a hat. The Shirley Jackson of it all. When Max reveals he's a faithful, Dan emits the fakest what of all time. Deontay, on the other hand, exhales in frustration and bangs on a wall. We eventually find him lying down, hardly able to talk. My heart. I can't do this no more, man. I am growing very fond of Deontay, but just to be safe, we are 100% sure that he knows people aren't literally being murdered and banished. Yes? Phaedra, of all people, tenderly comforts him. But before the traitors can rest too long on their laurels, they're informed of a twist. There will be no secret turret meeting tonight. Instead, they must not only do their plotting as they mingle among the faithful, but even worse, they have to commit the murder in plain sight. I love this. Not only does it feel like a sorely needed way to rebalance the game a bit in favor of the faithfuls, but I can't get enough of the clue direction this takes. The weapon? A poisoned chalice, hidden inside a hollowed-out volume of Shakespearean tragedies in the castle library. Whichever faithful's lips touch the chalice first will be murdered, though there's no telling when the slow-acting poison will actually take effect. There is no question as to which of the three traitors will screw her courage to the sticking place. Parvati feels like a trained assassin, with zero adrenaline running through her veins. The leader of the Black Widow Brigade was born for this. After exclusively killing men so far, Dan wants to murder a woman, feminism handled. 3MJ. But is that too obvious now that she's gunning for him? Phaedra has made it clear that they are not to murder her fellow archoke Sherry, but what if Parvati went ahead and did it anyway, without her cooperation? Forgiveness not permission, etc. Parvati, who is good at this to the point of it being a little concerning, congenially volunteers as a bartender, stepping behind the bar where Sandra, John, and Sherry, et al., are hanging out. But Phaedra soon joins them, and she is watching Parvati like a hawk, no doubt ready to accidentally knock the glass out of Sherry's hands if it should come to that. No. Too much heat. Parvati wisely sees herself and her chalice. It doesn't help her cause that the cup looks awfully rusty out. The kitchen would make a much more interesting crime scene. Anyway, she enters to find Trishelle, MJ, Bergie, Pete, Janelle, and Dan staring at Parvati with his eyes, you guessed it, wide, all hanging out. Watching her look from face to face and work through this problem in real time, I am legitimately giddy. Who should she kill? Who could she kill? For once, murder is as much about convenience as it is about strategy. And time is of the essence. She needs to act before the clock strikes bedtime. Unfortunately for us, we'll have to wait till next week to find out who gets caught in the Black Widow's web. This is the end of today's program. If you have any comments, please leave a message and see you in the next video.